Welcome back to the Breaker Bros, and we're going to react to the Bengals vs. Ravens playoff game. So, what's your initial reactions?
We got lucky, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, that was a crazy game. Um, it just felt like the Ravens came out, super physical, super aggressive. Got away with a lot of, like that, clearly pass interference on that first play and where they had the first drive where the Bengals had to kick the field goal. I mean, I don't know if that's not pass interference, what is, right? And then they have the nerve to call the Bengals for, hands to the face twice.
Yeah,
So
it seemed like it got really sloppy towards the end, especially with some of the penalties, and we made it so much easier for them, especially at the very end of the game when Dax Hill had back-to-back penalties, which kind of hurt us pretty bad. But it seemed like starting out, it was like we were really physical. It seemed like we were going to run the ball really well, and it looked like we were going to take control. And then yeah, because where we get up to, I guess the sign was we didn't score the touchdown on the first drive, and then when we on the second drive we missed the extra point, which was kind of like a weird feeling. But at that point, we were like, I guess it felt like a comfortable lead, right? It's like 9-0.
Yeah, it felt like there were a couple times where the game was going to get out of hand for the Ravens, right? And the Bengals were going to, put it out of reach. And then, I mean, it was just like a weird, like, it just felt like so many times the Ravens were close to like a disaster. And those were like their best plays. Like, the worse the play started off, the worse it looked, the better it ended up for them,
Well, because that's basically what led into the second quarter. Because I want to say they had their drive that was like 9 minutes, and they had I felt like every possible third down they could have had on the field. They had, because it seemed like they had 6 third downs on that drive, and they converted them all. And it was just like that to me was the difference between this week and last week. Was because the thought was, well, they rested some of the key players like Dobbins. Or is it Dobbins or Dobkins? I always get his name wrong.
J.K. Dobbins, I think.
Dobbins, yeah, no K, right?
And his initials, so J.
Oh well, I mean, but not in his last name though.
Yeah, but maybe that's why you're confused.
Yeah, you're probably right.
There's a K.
Yeah.
There's a K in there.
I think it, but anyways,
yeah,
they that to me was a trade off. Was that if you think about last week's game, was that they had a lot of big plays, like that. It just seemed like a lot of big passing plays where they wouldn't really have if they were running well. And that to me was a trade-off. Is like, okay, well, maybe they're going to run a little bit well or better this week than last week, but then it's going to take that much more time off the clock. And they're not really built to they're very similar to the Titans, where they're just going to continue to run. And it was just like, even at the end of the game, I just kept thinking, it just cracks me up how confident they are in running. But any short down or fourth down in short, they just seem to always convert, and that was a big problem for us today. It seemed like throughout the whole game, except that goal line stand, which was possibly one of the best plays defensively. Bengals at least for us. I mean,
it's a great play.
It could possibly be the best play, but I don't know, because it was the first round.
You could argue it saved the whole season, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, from that play, it seemed like the defense just hit a switch, and they were just playing way more aggressive, and it just seemed like they started to tee off.
I mean, it just felt like the Ravens were very physical on defense in the first half, and then I feel like you're right. The Bengals picked it up in the second half. The other thing is, okay, I'm already jumping to a new topic, but don't you feel like Jackson Carman didn't look all that bad at left tackle?
No, and I mean
that's the big issue for us, right?
Yeah, and they gave him a tacky holding call, which was he got the. It was kind of.
It looked like holding, right? Because anytime you see a lineman touch or an offensive lineman touch a defensive lineman from behind, it always looks like holding.
Yeah, but no, I felt like in some ways it almost felt like an upgrade over the way Williams has been playing. Because like there was times where like it just looked like he was mauling people on the line. Where like when you run into Jackson Carman, he can like stop people. The only problem is like
It definitely looked like he was more athletic, but I mean, there were some plays where things kind of blew up. I mean,
yeah, but
it's
the
rough.
protection seemed like it was overall a lot better when he was in the game versus when Williams, which is kind of weird. Which is
It was just a weird game all around.
Well,
because I just
maybe
feel like
Jonah has been playing with that injury for a while, and maybe it's finally caught up to him because like when you play really athletic, like I feel like the way the Ravens defense is built is probably going to give us the most problems in the playoffs, and it clearly showed today because like they're just like
no,
you said.
I definitely think that you're right. I think that Williams was probably hurt before he went out. I mean, he may even start the game hurt, but I mean,
No, well, he was. I think he got hurt in like week 6 or something. Like dislocated his knee, and then like I'm
yeah,
sure like he was playing through a lot of pain. But like you're not. I feel like he was probably never all the way right, and then maybe, especially in these last couple of games where there's so much on the line. Like,
yeah,
no pun intended, but like it just the way they rush in the playoffs, and then if you're trying to make the playoffs is just so much different. So like. Yeah, it just made sense. Like the way he went down, like you could just tell, like he tried to cut, and it was just too much for him. It looked like where his leg kind of gave out more than anything.
yeah. He just kind of crumbled.
Yeah. So
So I mean, so they're going to have to go play the Bills with kind of a makeshift offensive line.
yeah, I mean, but like I said, surprisingly, it wasn't like. And then it seemed like at times, initially when Carmen first came in, is more towards like the fourth quarter. I felt like where they gave us more issues, but it seemed like we were running on the left side of the line really well behind Carmen and Bolson because we had like a few runs where I felt like got more than 5 or 8 yards, and it was just like when you get those runs on the first down, it makes everything so much easier. So, but to credit to the Ravens, that's what I was saying. Like when people are saying, well, they were arresting some of the key players last week that they were trying to take. I was like, they're still a really good team. I mean, they're a playoff team. Obviously, they look like a playoff team. Unfortunately, like if you have like Lamar Jackson in, it could have totally changed the landscape of the game. But like, but that to me is always the Ravens. Is that they're always going to have a really good defense and a really
be
good
fair
run game.
though, if they had Lamar Jackson, would the Bengals have had to play him in the first round? You know, if we get to pretend that Lamar Jackson didn't get hurt, when do we start pretending he was hurt? Is it just this game he magically shows up to beat the Bengals, or you know he came back 3 weeks ago, so the Ravens are a higher seed, so then Bengals didn't have to play him?
That's true. I think if anything, even though it was like a really ugly game, the main thing is that we got the win. And then the funny part was the end of the game was kind of wrapping up kind of like how it was last year against the Raiders. Same thing in the first round where like they're trying to make that last fourth quarter drive to tie the game, and then we almost picked it off, and it was almost Pratt again that got the ball, and he almost sealed the deal right there. But I mean, they pretty much didn't have anything towards the end of the game. And it just seemed like there was a lot of ticky-tack calls. Well, I don't know. It seemed like
they're totally ticky-tack calls. That's the part that pisses me off. It's just like, okay, those 4 points in the first quarter count just as much as any other points in the rest of the game, you know? And if you're going to let if you're going to let Marcus Peters pass interference, right? He should have been thrown out of the game for punching Joe Mixon, right? I mean, the Ravens were getting away with all kinds of pass interference in the first half, and they didn't call that, you know? And then all of a sudden, the second half, every little ticky-tack thing they call against the Bengals, it just shows how like fixed the NFL is. They try to keep stuff close. They totally are shading it, you know, to get people to watch longer, right? So I mean, you know, and I thought it was funny they had all those WWE commercials during it. I'm like, oh yeah, same thing. WWE, NFL, you know, it's all fixed. So I mean, you know, we're just lucky that they didn't snatch it from us somehow, even though they tried to.
No, it was to me. It
I
was
mean, what
just
about the face? What about the face mask on Joe Burrow on that in the first half? Right, the
face
guy comes
mask.
around. He comes around, and like it's he kind of reaches and grabs Burrow's helmet in the face mask area, right? They don't call a penalty, right? And then that should be face mask.
I,
You're
I don't.
not supposed to hit a quarterback in the head at all, and you grab him by the face mask.
I can't remember that one,
BS.
but I do remember the one on Higgins where like they scraped across his face mask where they called it a penalty in one
They
game.
like uppercut him.
Yeah.
They uppercut him. Like you can see like his whole helmet just goes up. Like the face mask and helmet goes up as he's trying to catch the ball. I mean, and same and Peters like punched Mixon. Like you shouldn't be allowed to punch somebody. They gave him a taunting penalty. I mean, he just gave him a shot right in the gut.
Yeah, I feel like when you have to resort to some of those tactics is that you really are not confident, I guess, in your overall team's ability because like you're trying to get underneath the other team's skin.
Yeah,
To
I
cause
mean,
a
and it
penalty.
worked. I mean, credit to them. It worked, right? It was a good game plan. Like their game plan was to come
Yeah, I
out
mean, if you're gonna go,
and be physical, and it's sort of like the thing they say in basketball. If you keep fouling, eventually they just stop calling the fouls because they can't call a foul on every single play. So it's just they were doing it and they were getting away with it. Which is fine, right? But then in the second half, all of a sudden they're calling all the ticky tack junk. I mean, it's fortunate that
well, another thing, and again, I usually keep my sound down. It was that it seemed like we had back-to-back roughing the kickers penalties. I know there's like two different ones. One's like for the 5-yard penalty. The other one's for like the automatic first down at 15 yards or whatever.
Yeah.
But it looked like they ran into the kicker twice back-to-back. They called the first one,
Yeah.
and then they called the second one.
Right.
And they're like,
well, and they were and watching it on TV. There were like 3 plays in a row where it looked like the Ravens jumped off sides. Like on the roughing the kicker one that they called.
Yeah.
That guy was a step past the line when they snapped it. He was like coming off full sprint and crossed the black line on the TV before the ball went back. And that's how he got there so fast.
Yeah.
It's just.
I mean, but defensively, I think the Ravens, like, they're just so balanced and very well, like, they match up really well against us, I guess. And then, I guess, leading into next week, I feel like, because we're going into Buffalo, I feel like we're not going to have as many problems as we did this week. In terms
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, if the offensive line can hold up, then yeah. But if it can't, who knows?
That's where I think the Ravens have a advantage because it's like their front seven is probably, in my opinion, maybe more superior than like especially if you're talking about pass rush than like the Bills or probably even the Chiefs if you take it as like a sum.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably more worried about the Chiefs defense than the Bills, but not saying the Bills is easy by any means, but just
I'm more worried about the Bills defense because we got to play them next.
I mean that's true.
I mean,
you can only focus.
You
on
have to
so
play
people.
you would take having to play against the Chiefs, right?
Well, I guess basically what I'm saying is that out of the teams that give us the biggest fits, I'd rather be playing the Bills right now than I guess the Chiefs. So it kind of works out. Not like the Jaguars are going to go in and actually upset the Chiefs, which they had a crazy game. They came back and they beat. Wait, who did they beat? The Jaguars beat the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
Weren't the Chargers up like 27-0 or something at halftime or something?
You know what's funny about that game is I was at Chewy's, right, and they had a game. They had Dolphins. I'm not Dolphins. They had Jaguars Chargers on the TV, and the Jaguars were winning, and it was kind of back and forth. And I read the story about the Chargers Jaguars, the comeback from 27-0. I was like, what the hell? I thought it was like closer than that. And then it took me a while to figure out that freaking Chewy's was just showing like a replay of like at the beginning of the season. I was like, that's right. James Robinson scored a touchdown. Pretty sure that they traded him halfway through the season. And then like that was the game where Slater got hurt. And I'm like, oh, Slater's playing. And I was like, I thought Mike Williams was out, but I just saw him catch a touchdown. And then the kicker is that I finally figured out because that game clearly was at SoFi. And I was like, wait a minute, the Jaguars were the home team. So I like literally thought that the Jaguars won pretty easily. Because it was just on at the bar.
That game. It seems kind of random.
It's very random. I don't know, I mean, it's like you're at the restaurant bar, right? So they had the 49ers game on, 49ers Seahawks, and I was just like, oh, well, that's weird. The NFL usually doesn't show two playoff games at the same time slot. Why do they have them both? Basically, I'm just telling you.
It could have been like NFL Network.
It was really, it was probably like NFL Network. But you would think they wouldn't do that anyways, right?
I don't know. I think
it's weird that they would put any kind of game up against like their kind of showcase game, but I guess whatever.
No, I mean, it makes sense. Yeah.
I woke up very confused because I was like 27-0. I don't think that was the score. What the hell happened?
Yeah, no, it was a pretty crazy game, but I don't know. I guess do you want to do the predictions for next week? The Bills versus Bengals.
Sure. Yeah, you lead us off. What do you think's gonna happen?
Obviously I'm going to pick us to win, but I feel like it's gonna be a little bit more high scoring than this Ravens game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say 31-27.
Okay. Bengals win?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get the roar going. Okay, I'm going to copy. I'm going to say 31-28 Bengals.
Okay.
We'll do that again.
All right.
You like that? You like those picks?
I like it. No, I chalk this up to being an AFC North game. It was pretty ugly. Like it seemed like it was going to start out really well, but I feel like next week is going to be a little bit more like what you would consider like a shootout. So
yeah, it's just weird because like they played so recently, and there's going to be a lot of kind of emotion, I guess is the best way to put it, over the way the game ended. Luckily, DeMar Hamlin is, I think they said he spoke to the team, the Bills, before their most recent game. So, I mean, definitely seems like he's in a lot better shape than he was, last time we talked about it. So I just feel like it's going to be, I think the Bills are going to have a lot of emotion,
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to.
Because, and I think that they're going to do. I would not be surprised if either the Bills or NFL did some kind of thing to showcase it, his recovery, because I feel like that's the story they want,
Right.
and talking about how I'm like concerned about like things being fixed and whatnot. I just feel like the NFL wants so bad for it to be Bills Chiefs in Atlanta, almost like you get two Super Bowls.
Right.
So I'm like very, very concerned about some kind of weirdness, just like the Super Bowl last year, right? It was like in LA, all about LA. They had an LA team. They had Snoop Dogg, It's just like, and then they had like 18 pass interference calls on the goal line to make sure that the Rams won.
Well, isn't the Super Bowl in Arizona this year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I don't know.
So
it's not in LA this year. It's definitely not in Buffalo. But point being that to me, it's just very suspicious that they've already planned who's going to be in the championship game for the AFC and where it's going to be. You know what I mean? They spent a lot of time planning that.
Right.
For them not to have it happen, I would just,
that's why it's not going to happen. So that way they can point back to
sets off the red flags in my head. Yeah. I don't think they're worried about being fixed.
I think they would rather it be Chiefs versus Bengals, because then it would be more or less like then people can't say it is fixed, and you don't have to worry about like the third party or the third party stadium or neutral site or whatever you want to call it. So like, I think it's just a little bit more cleaner if it is Chiefs versus Bengals from that perspective. But I'm sure there's a way they make more money, especially from tickets, if they have it at a neutral site. So
yeah, I just there's something so wrong about the neutral site thing. It's just really, ripping off the fans of the teams, right?
Well, the neutral site would make sense for the championship games like the NFC, AFC, and the Super Bowl. But then I would do it in a way where like maybe the number 1 seed doesn't even like get a bye. But I guess you would have to go to 8.
I don't know, man. I just think it's like you spend like a whole lifetime rooting for a team. And if you're like a season ticket holder, you get an AFC championship. Your team finally makes it, right? And then they're like, oh, yeah, you got to go to Atlanta to go watch the game, which, it's just such a ripoff to have to go like to like one of these bowl game kind of things, right? Because you're paying like $800 a night for a hotel room.
So if the Bengals and Jaguars both somehow win, totally kills your narrative, because you know what that means.
Totally kills it. But
it means the AFC Championship would be in Cincinnati.
Well, it wouldn't kill I would take that. That's what I'm rooting for.
Well, I'm just saying, because like you're saying like they're really wanting it to be Chiefs versus Bills at a neutral site.
So I think so.
So if the Jags,
I think so, because I really think that the NFL wants to do that, like a neutral site for the AFC and NFC championship, because I feel like they can make a little bit more money than if it were at like a home game.
They would definitely make more money off of ticket sales that way, for sure.
Yeah, because then it's not going to be just with the fans, right? Because it can't be. Because if it are a neutral site, right? So like Kansas City, they have like the biggest stadium in the NFL, right? They have like the most seats. So there's no way, right?
What's up, Brick Top? That was ugly, but we got the dub. That's all that matters.
Yeah. But you see what I'm saying, though? Like how it's like a ripoff to like the season ticket holders that if it's at a neutral site.
Well, I mean, unless they get like first dibs to go to the site, right? So you get
but you still have to pay double, right? Because you live in Kansas City.
You're right.
Now you got to go to Atlanta.
Yeah, because travel and then plus hotel and
Atlanta's not cheap.
Well, yeah, but then that's why they make so much money, because then you get to a whole different type of customer, right? It essentially makes the AFC NFC championship game like a bowl game, right? Where it's not going to be like the Super Bowl, but it's like it's going to be the really wealthy people going to that type of stuff, because like that's when all the stuff gets jacked up, right? It becomes more of an event, and I'm sure that's what they want.
Yeah, no, but so that's what I'm saying. Like I'm worried that next week is fixed because more money is going to be made if it's at the neutral site, and they spent a lot of effort lining all this stuff up.
Okay, well, best case scenario, Bengals win,
Jags
win. Are you going to go to the AFC Championship?
I don't know. Are you?
I would consider it. That would be a long shot, but I guess I got to start looking at ticket prices. But I don't want to jinx it. I'll definitely be looking. Bills versus Bengals. That's got to be. That's probably going to be. I feel like we're going to get the Sunday night game again. I don't see how it could be a Monday night game. I guess. Well, they don't do Monday night the second week of or I guess the divisional round. I can't remember. I don't think they do. I think it's just Sunday night. But I feel like that would definitely be the the showcase, right? Unless there's an NFC matchup I'm not thinking of. But yes, Who Day, Bricktop.
Who Day. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I should be more happy that we won, but I guess I'm more relieved than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's also weird for us, right? Because it's never happened before where we go back-to-back AFC North champs, right?
Right.
And at least in my lifetime, well, as far as memory-wise, I can't remember where we go back-to-back playoffs and actually get a playoff win. So, like, it's just we definitely, it's just a different feeling. Like, the expectations are much higher. But I also think, in a way, we did get like a monkey off our back, especially getting through the Ravens, even though it was really ugly. I think in ways like going forward, especially offensively, it's going to be less tense. Because I just think the Ravens know us that well, too. Like, it's just, that's why it was so ugly at times. But I guess that's pretty much it, unless there's anything you want to add to it.
No, put a bow in it.
Let's do it. All right. Who Day. Have a good one.
Who Day. Yeah. See you next week.